Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Actual News, bringing you live coverage of the 2020 Hunger Games. I'm your host, Alex Giampapa. I once saw Ben Shapiro on the Joe Rogan Experience and started saluting cops for 3 months. It's April 47th, 2032, another crazy week in paradise. President Trump pushed quarantine past April 12th when he realized packed churches would have ended up like the opposite of the Easter story. 3 days pass and everyone dies. President Trump has stopped calling coronavirus the Chinese virus, instead opting to squint his eyes and call it the, virus. Italy's been hit the hardest by COVID-19. Some assumed marinara in the IVs or the hand-to-mouth contact included when going, "Mwah!" But there have been many complaints even at the Vatican. To prevent the spread of the virus, they are separating priests from altar boys for the very first time, mostly because the boys keep referring to COVID-19 as Judgment Day. We're happy to be here. Let's jump into our first segment, Social Distancing Check-In. How's your social distancing going? I don't know how else to say this, but please actually do it. First of all, if you think you're like rugged or tough or not, you're not. In our culture, it's admirable to work through pain. Soldiers in battle, athletes with torn ACLs, someone showing up sick for their minimum wage shift at Build-A-Bear because they have no other choice. Americans. Just keep in mind, going out and having fun is nothing like Michael Jordan's flu game. If you're doing painkillers, it kind of resembles that one time with Aaron Rodgers.
How do you put this one into words?
Well, it's hard to, it is. But it's the Bear-Packer rivalry. So it would have to take something really catastrophic injury-wise to keep me off the field in the second half. I went in the locker room, did all the tests, and then I was in our indoor facility trying to get it loosened up. But I knew once I got back on the field, the adrenaline started going, I'd be able to hang in there.
What was the injury?
My knee. I just felt something in it. Just had a hard time putting weight on it. Doc and I had a conversation there. We did the test. I told him I was going back.
And also 80% of the NFL. It's a barbaric sport. But regardless, it's bad to do. If you want to go hang out with a friend, you're going to have to find out everyone they hung out with in the last 3 weeks, and everyone who hung out with them, and frankly, you're going to have an easier time finding the Zodiac Killer, so just stay in. And now, the forecast with Daniela Ciccone.
El capitalismo nos ha fallado. El proletariado cavará tumbas para los burgueses. La sangre está en mano de nuestros políticos. La revolución es la única forma en que podemos vivir. Por lo tanto, no podemos temer a la muerte.
Congress passed a $2 trillion stimulus package for Americans. Instead of doing $2,000 a month for 4 months like Canada, Congress decided to give Americans a one-time check for $1,200. And because the cost of a one-bedroom apartment in America is on average $1,216, our government is basically saying, you may live for 1 month, and here is $16. Enjoy. Now, we'll cover the stimulus package in more detail later on. For now, I can tell you it's basically like guys who describe their junk as a package. It's disappointing. For today, I'd like to cover a developing case that will greatly determine how our country responds to this epidemic: Joe Biden. Now, if you're like me, when you heard that Joe Biden was the Democratic frontrunner, you probably said to yourself, Why? We'll get to Joe in a second, but first, let's take a look at all the Democratic nominees that Joe won over. If you've listened to the podcast, you'll know we're no fans of Pete Buttigieg, aka the kid who had 8 pens and wouldn't lend you one. Instead of just being cool for once, he said some shit like, if I give a man a pen, he'll write for a day. But if I teach a man to bring a pen, he can write forever. And then someone took a shit in his locker, and nobody ever found out who it was because the school didn't install cameras until the following year. Pete came out very strong in Iowa due to being a very hard-working and intelligent cheater. He declared victory before results actually came in, which was weird, but not a first for Democrats.
Donald Trump wins the presidency.
Pete is one of those very white people. White. Like, I'm Italian, so I'm white everywhere but Maine. But Pete is so white, he describes food that he gets at a picnic as a big hit and then complains that the Chipotle mayo was too spicy. Pete also frequently touted himself as a war veteran, but later admitted that most of his battling was done from behind a laptop, which sounds bad, but is actually relatable for many of us. Amy Klobuchar, a perfect encapsulation of the mean mommy fetish, was most well known for abusing her staffers, throwing a binder at one and forcing another to watch her eat a salad with a comb after they forgot to bring her a fork. Seems bad, but perhaps she was throwing objects to keep people 6 feet away from her. Sadly, this didn't work because Amy Klobuchar has contracted coronavirus from a comb. No candidates have it, but we can hope. Mike Bloomberg spent over $500 million on an embarrassing presidential run, a price tag which included treating his staff to catered meals, fancy downtown Manhattan apartments, and brand new iPhones. On the bright side, this might be the only time where trickle-down economics actually worked. Andrew Yang, who gained popularity on the internet, soon discovered a harsh reality. Some voters don't have the internet, and in New Hampshire, none do. Elizabeth Warren, whose campaign was essentially Bernie Sanders, but a woman, was forced to back out after a poor showing on Super Tuesday, after realizing her entire base was kids who just liked hanging out with their teachers. Deval Patrick. Tom Steyer, the only billionaire to buy his way in besides Bloomberg, for now. He impressively built his fortune completely selling used cars and had some impressive polling weeks after saying, "I like Bernie," because he felt he had outgrown his physical vessel and finally wanted to leave this world. The last to drop out was Hawaii's Tulsi Gabbard, the only candidate capable of opening a jar of pickles. She actually took out Officer Kamala Harris in an early debate. You can watch that here.
Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way. The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you are in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
For me, that's a top 5 diss track. It's like below Ether, but above No Vaseline. Many people don't know this, but Tulsi Gabbard was an open supporter of Medicare for All, ending America's pointless wars, and finally fixing the corrupt use of corporate money in politics, or as Hillary Clinton would call it, being Russian. Bernie Sanders has not technically been ruled out, but all signs point to Joe Biden. He's probably the worst candidate the Democrats have to run against Donald Trump, so it should be no surprise they've selected him as their current frontrunner. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone else, tonight I am proud to present to you Joe Biden sucks. Joe Biden, a person most voters recognize as the Obama guy, I think, has built an entire political career off seeming like he might star in a buddy cop movie with you someday. Biden is a senator and former vice president to Barack Obama, who has not confirmed whether Joe Biden ever told him he was too hot under the collar for a case like this, that he was a young, loose cannon who doesn't play by the rules, or if he's ever asked Obama to teach him how to dance. Biden's comeback has been impressive. He actually trailed in the races after several bad debate performances. Joe argued more poorly than a baby boomer on Facebook posting crime statistics, but the night before Super Tuesday, all of the moderate candidates decided to abandon their campaigns and endorse Biden, which pushed him ahead of Bernie Sanders. This was an exciting victory for the center-left, I guess. I don't know if centrists get excited or if they're just like, things are as they should be. To celebrate, I'm having salt and pepper on my chicken tonight. I hope I enjoy it, but not too much. Anyone who loses their job should die. I really don't understand someone wanting to be in the center of these two parties. Like, what do you want to do, build half of a wall? Anyway, Joe Biden is shitty like a lot of Washington in that he lies all of the time. Although lying in D.C. is probably like old men having their balls out in locker rooms. There's so much of it going on that eventually it just starts to feel normal. And that's what they want. Biden's lied about his past positions on race issues. In case you missed it, Joe likes his busing like he likes his TV, no color. Despite saying otherwise, Joe frequently tried to cut Social Security, which is just saying, kill all the old people, which, at this point, may actually draw out the youth vote. One big concern for voters is Biden's broken brain, which he definitely cannot say 5 times fast. Take a look here.
Rich Fitzgerald, the county executive, Allegheny County executive, being here, and
we don't always live up to that's who we are.
Go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. We can speak out and be more straightforward.
Senator Joe, I mean, but I mean, it's not about, I know you're supporting by saying booing, but look, here's the deal.
Union workers, the UAW took incredible cuts in their future. You don't have here in Miami, in Florida. You don't have it here, and that is if you keep an audience. All these breakthroughs we have with the whole, dealing with the whole, help people who have or in fact are and likely to get Alzheimer's by Wall Street bankers, CEOs, and hedge fund managers. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. I found that the secretary, we sat together in many meetings. My wife is a full-time teacher, taught all during when we were vice president. But President Trump and the demagogues around the world.
Now, Joe isn't just a liar, and he doesn't just have cognitive impairment. Joe Biden is also a creep. A powerful man, weird to women, stunning, I know. Joe Biden is the man that mothers warn their daughters about, to not be in the same rooms with alone, and to absolutely not accept any money or candy from. In case you've been living under a rock, or worse, exclusively watching MSNBC, Joe Biden's had a history of creepy behavior with women. We all know someone like Joe, creepy, but usually just playful enough that he can play it off as a joke. He's got the sexual energy of a bus driver on leave of absence following a school investigation. The scoutmaster they cite in the lawsuit, the God-fearing bishop who was moved to another parish, not because of anything weird, he says, just because West Virginia's really nice in the fall. Joe Biden is the only pedophile in Washington too dumb to not just do this on Epstein's Island. Joe Biden has 8 assault allegations. One more and they could form a baseball team, which is fitting since Joe Biden spends most of his time doing nothing, is mostly only appealing to older people, and can't let go of the minors. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just one last thing. We've had such a great response so far. The Actual News has decided to put together its first live event. This is going to be the Hugathon to end COVID-19. It's time to come together. Christians, conservatives, establishment Democrats, one and all, just like you, will accept rapists, murderers, child molesters, and thieves as well for a special healing ceremony. Let's all get together by the grace of God and end COVID-19 together, just us alone, in a room we will be locked in to amplify the power of God. All sins will be forgiven on this holy day. We will be hugging, kissing, singing songs with our mouths wide open for weeks at a time if that's what it takes. Lest we forget Leviticus 15:41, God's love shall spread through his chosen few. It's time to forget the lies of the liberal Jew media. I didn't write this. Everyone is lying, and it's time to be around the few people who can see through all the lies. Hospitals have been taken over by the devil. See you next week, folks, and do not trust doctors.